Hey everybody, Evan Kirstel here with one of my favorites, Al Belasco from Radisys. Sal, how are you?
Hey, Evan, good to talk to you again, and I'm doing really well. I hope you're doing well.
I am doing well. The end of summer is upon us, sadly, but plenty of work ahead of us and travel and interesting things to talk about. Al, maybe introduce yourself, SVP at Radisys, and for those who don't know who Radisys is, give us a bit of a sketch.
Sure. Thanks. My name is Al Belasco. I'm responsible for a product line within Radisys we call our communications and digital engagement products, and sort of the centerpiece of that portfolio is the technology that serves applications that need real-time media processing. Um, um, Conferencing is a perfect application for our media processor, or IVR applications, or tones and announcements, network announcements. And this technology is deployed at over 200 operators globally. Um, and what we've done and launched really a couple of years ago was a platform called the Engage Digital Platform that provides building blocks, APIs, and an ever-growing library of digital applications that service providers can offer to their customers that exploit their networks, and in both the consumer and business or enterprise domains. So that's why we're really keen, um, um, to participate in the upcoming CASA 23 event, and looking forward to it. But that's a little bit about Radisys and why where we fit in this domain.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're here in the Boston area, as am I. So I'm going to avoid talking Red Sox. I don't want to get the audience too depressed here, but I know you're a huge ball fan. We'll save that for a separate episode. And speaking of CASA 23, that's the big CPaaS Acceleration Alliance get together in a couple of weeks in Amsterdam. Still plenty of flights available to Amsterdam, or if you're a native, it is going to be I think, essential meetup for anyone and everyone in CPaaS and adjacent areas in 5G and telecom communication services, carriers, developers, executives, vendors. It's really going to be an interesting time, and you'll be there, Al, I'm sure. When I think of Radisys, it's like you and CPaaS are like peanut butter and jelly, right? You go right together in terms of working with developers. Maybe describe how you work within the CPaaS community and how people are
Sure.
building apps today and for decades on your platforms.
Sure. So I mean, if we this the acronym CPaaS is pretty amorphous. It means many different things to different people. So if we kind of stretch the definition of what CPaaS is, we can look at that media server platform that I talked about earlier as a CPaaS building block. And our this product has been available in the market and evolved over the past 20 years to support applications and application developers, particularly, not exclusively, but particularly in the telecom service provider domain, including customers that we engage with directly, but for the most part, customers that we sell through OEM partners or resellers
Mm.
to. So Nokia, for example, uses our media server as the media resource function in their IMS architecture, and applications that drive the media server in that context use the Nokia TAS, and we have other OEMs like that, and that's how we've predominantly got that 200 plus operator footprint through partners like that. We also have examples of ISVs who serve the enterprise space, our systems integrators, ISVs who serve the enterprise space in different vertical markets. We have a customer who's in the financial services space who sells communications solutions to banks and traders like hedge funds, and they use our technology. So there's a handful of other examples like that outside of the telco domain. And one of the things that we really felt was critical in helping our customers leverage that technology and reaching new customers and serving new applications was breaking through the need for a developer who wants to use this technology to have deep telecom expertise. And I think if I think about what CPaaS is in general, in the end, that's what it is. How do I make this communications technology or a wide range of communications capabilities and network capabilities available to a broad range of developers? So in order to accelerate the adoption of that media server technology in different applications and in different markets, we created a platform we call Engage Digital Platform to enable those services to be delivered quickly and by a broad cross-section of users. In fact, even saying it's a developer platform is a little bit of a misnomer, because the tools that we provide are available for even kind of business process owners or managers, so they can construct different workflows using visual tools, and not even have to have developer, not just not having to have communications expertise, but not having to have a depth of developer and developer tools expertise as well. So that's really what's kind of driven us in this space we call CPaaS, and it's really unlocked the doors to a lot of really innovative applications. And one of the key things that we've done is this platform is used by our developers to create applications. I think one of the key things about CPaaS and one of the challenges in this space has been breaking through kind of this technical barrier and even trying to understand what CPaaS is. If we kind of boil it down to what the essentials, it's really about applications and services, and how do those get delivered. So how do those get delivered? And we think that focusing on those applications and solutions and customer problems, rather than focusing on here's some APIs and great tools and building blocks, is essential to furthering the cause, and that'll help us in this industry, and that'll help Radisys, and it'll help our customers. And long story short, I think this is where the participation of Radisys in the CPaaS Acceleration Alliance and the CASA 23 event is really critical. The focus that this organization and this alliance has on solving business problems. The technology is an enabler, and the technology is important, but it's not the emphasis and it's not the lead. And that's really kind of our mantra. And we are not only in the products that we're offering and the capabilities that we're offering to our customers, taking that to heart, but actually using the technology ourselves to create an ever-growing library of applications that our customers can take off the shelf as is, or take and customize and tweak to their own needs or their customer needs.
Brilliant. Yeah, when I first met you and Radisys, gosh, maybe 15 years ago, are we getting old or what? It was all about a fairly basic set of protocols and standards and use cases in those days. But now it's much more than that. It really is about transforming the network and helping with digital transformation, both in the core and the edge of the network, right? So it's become much more strategic than just the engine, the plumbing, if you will, of the network. I mean, I saw one of your applications doing real-time translation of video calls in the contact center between an English and Chinese speaker.
Yeah.
Again, this is like something out of Star Trek, communicator territory. But this was not just a demo. This was an actual application of real-time language translation, so AI with video, over video. And so applications like that are really transformational, are they not?
They are. And the interesting thing about that application is how it can be adapted to many different uses. I mean, that contact center case is it's sort of the sweet spot, because there's a very strong ROI that can be built for saying, look, I don't need to have staff that I can have staff. I can have more flexibility in how I staff my contact center, where my agents are, and even what their capabilities are, if I can sort of reduce the number of specific skills that are required for those agents at any time. So being able to serve customers anytime, anywhere, regardless of what language there are, they can a contact center, which is essentially a cost center for an enterprise, can continue to drive their costs down while helping their customers and enabling customer satisfaction. But there's a lot of great applications for that application with a small amount of adaptability. I mean, if you think about governments around the world, one of the key mandates for many government applications, whether it's local, regional, or national, is accessibility. So I want to be able to reach as many people as possible with my services, and being able to translate in not just tens or dozens, but hundreds of different languages makes it very easy to extend, reach that goal for government services, and using the telecom networks to deliver and enable those services. Another interesting application for this, we have a customer who manages E911 call centers, and they basically said that the agents in those call centers, they staff them so that they can support the most commonly spoken languages in their particular jurisdiction. But when they do have somebody who calls and it's a less commonly spoken language, what they do is connect with a service where they will seek a live person who can speak that language. Now, if you think about that, okay, there's probably not that many calls that fall into that category. So cost savings isn't a big driver there, but it literally can help save lives, because it can take minutes for somebody to recognize, understand what language that the caller is speaking, connect with this service, and then have this service find somebody who's available to speak that language. So it can literally be a matter of life and death. So that's one of the great things about this kind of emphasis, looking at innovative applications that are using capabilities that you wouldn't have really, or most people who think of CPaaS wouldn't have really thought of maybe even 2 or 3 years ago. Those capabilities are now part of the CPaaS toolkit. An application focus provides that repeatability and portability to many different applications. But then this is where the tools, APIs, and enabling capabilities really shine, is when I want to change, slightly this application to meet a particular market need, or even a business specific need. And that serving a business specific need also creates a lot of stickiness for a service provider who's enabling that for that enterprise customer, because it makes it much harder for them to switch to a new network provider. So they have a captive customer.
Brilliant. Yeah, lots of talk of how to monetize these brand new standalone 5G networks that are out there. It's pretty clear CPaaS and related services are going to do that. It's also about segmenting the market. It's not just the range of applications, but gosh, there are CPaaS use cases in B2B, obviously B2C, and small business, retail, online commerce, emerging applications like IoT. How do you view the breadth of this market? I mean, could it work its way into almost any industry or vertical?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's in some ways it's one of the challenges in this market. Capturing and articulating what the possibility and what the potential is, because the potential is so broad. So in one of the areas that we are focused on, and then kind of leading to the answer to your question, how do we now take applications and services, network applications and services, into specific markets? And those can range from specific industries. I mean, especially with you highlighting these AI and ML capabilities that are now part of the CPaaS toolkit. In our domain, what does that mean? And that's another term that can be very broad. AI and ML, just like CPaaS, just like unified communications. In our domain, that means being able to tap into real-time media streams, whether it's audio only, a microphone capturing sound in an area, somebody screaming, a gunshot, whatever, or video streams, live video streams. And with the proliferation of IoT devices on broadband and including 5G networks and even Wi-Fi networks, the ability to gain insights instantly from these media streams really starts to enable applications that can be tailored to specific vertical markets. Security and surveillance in a smart cities application, being able to recognize that there's too big of a crowd in an area, or there's been a car accident, and even be able to quickly tweak models to identify new things, or create new models for these applications. Really opens the door for vertical specific applications. We've got a customer we're working with they're a service provider. This is one of the interesting things I think in the telco domain around CPaaS is a lot of those telcos, as they step into this area, they start in a lot of ways as a consumer of the technology themselves, and say, if I can use this as a reference, whether it's in my contact center to automate more interactions with customers, or in my enterprise. We have one service provider who wants to automate processes on in their warehouse along sort of an assembly line where returns are processed, so they can identify based on the size of a box or the weight of a box. Even this isn't just about media streams, but sensors that are connected to scales can trigger specific business actions. And these applications can be generalized for a particular market, like a smart warehouse, smart manufacturing, smart warehouse, smart city, and then tailored in that market to a specific customer or requirement. So a lot of the service providers are starting as consumers of the technology, and then saying, I can take these applications to my customers as well. So, I mean, the possibilities in terms of the types of applications that we can serve, or our customers can serve with these solutions in the programmable communications or CPaaS domain, continue to grow. And the thing that's really encouraging is every day when we talk to customers, and especially providing like a sandbox for developers or participating in codeathons, we have our own internal codeathons, and a lot of products are generated from those ideas. It's really taking that reach that we talked about earlier, that accessibility really starts to accentuate and illustrate what the art of the possible is. So there's new application ideas that have tangible business benefits that we see coming up every day, that if we said, hey, let's ideate here, let's figure out what the killer app is, and go and identify an application that we'll go to market with, that would only scratch the surface on what's possible. So I think it's the combination of the innovation that can be facilitated by these technologies and these applications and building blocks, and being able to take the applications that are built and start to repeat and adapt them to specific industries. We're really going to see an explosion in use cases for CPaaS-based solutions.
Well, it's going to be fascinating to watch. Well, let's talk telcos, the good, the bad, the ugly. You and I have been around this space for a long time, and the telcos have gotten really good, particularly through the pandemic, at providing smart pipes, incredibly reliable and high quality connectivity services. And that's been like a lifesaver for all of us, literally. But over the last decade, there have been lots of missteps, false starts around API initiatives that didn't quite meet expectations. In fact, a lot of alternative providers, like the Twilios or InfoBips or others, have built their business on, building services and then maybe partnering with telcos or going around the telcos. Have we reached a tipping point now? Do you think there's enough momentum and technology and capability, the stars aligned to where, we can really, build on these API initiatives for good?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. And in a lot of ways, it's the $20 million question here. Can the telcos succeed in this space?
$20 billion. Come on, we're talking big money.
I think that there's a few things that have happened. If you look at kind of what's changed over the past 5 years and what's different about it from service providers. Well, number one, just the experience that many of them had. I think if we retrospectively, what a lot of service providers who did try to enter the space, what did they try to do? Often it was, hey, let's take back what companies like Twilio or Vonage, the ground that they've kind of taken from us. And so they created capabilities that were very similar to what Twilio and Vonage and others like them offered? Well, number one, to recapture that ground, you need to differentiate. That was a challenge. And number two, if you go to an application developer and you ask them, who are the companies that provide the tools that you use, the telcos are not going to be high on that list. And I think the other thing that happened when the telcos that were early entrants into this space, there was sort of an "if you build it, they will come" mentality. So we'll put the shingle on the door. We will attract developers because developers of these enterprises are using our services, but they're using, like you said, connectivity services. What's changed now? Well, number one, the digital transformation based on the impact of the pandemic. You see retrospectively, like anywhere from 5 to 10 year measures of 5 to 10 years of acceleration on digital transformation. So the expectations of consumers are a lot different now. Second, I think we would flip the positioning of CPaaS in the telco space from looking at APIs and tools, so API marketplaces, for example, which a lot of the service providers who are dipping their toes in this market, that's how they started, to focusing on applications. And then I think there's also a recognition now, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, when we would talk about providing new enterprise services, for example, often we would hear service providers say, look, Microsoft, Google, they own that space and we partner with them. So let's just focus on our knitting. And I think now they're saying, well, with the assets that we have and the recognition that we have to move beyond commoditized connectivity, they are more interested in playing, one, on the application side, two, not worrying so much about getting in the space where other vendors are, because they can look for the white space where they can augment what the Microsofts of the world are doing. And finally, one of the big changes has been the proliferation of 5G capabilities, 5G network services, and the need for monetizing those services. I think there's a recognition in the telco domain that that's not going to come from consumers. It's going to come from businesses. So there's a little bit of a kind of a perfect storm. One, learning from what they've done in the past, what didn't work, what did work, focusing on applications, leveraging the assets that they have, which can help them differentiate from the kind of hyperscalers and OTT only players. And finally, a recognition in a lot of cases that it's about survival. And I think the last part of it, which I'll highlight, and again, I'll tie to the mission of the CPaaS Acceleration Alliance, is moving the conversation from a technology conversation to a business conversation and business benefits. I think that's really critical. And part of that is helping customers understand what's possible, helping them understand how they can monetize the capabilities that they offer, and how they can succeed. This whole category of customer success roles within businesses to help their customers in this category of customer success. I think all these things are coming together and are kind of playing out that and helping the telcos position themselves well in this space. And we're seeing a lot of success for those companies who maybe started down this path. Maybe they were the early entrants and they've transformed to focus more on these applications, or they're just getting into this, but they're not focused on APIs per se, but on solutions for their customers, that they are finding that they can monetize capabilities of their network with applications and new services, and it can become more than connectivity.
Well, you paint a hopeful future in this space, which I'm pretty optimistic about. What about Radisys? I mean, you have a tremendous technology team. You must have a pretty aggressive and interesting roadmap. What can you share? What's on the radar for you and your technology for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, good question. So, I think number one, back to what's our knitting in with real-time media processing, that plays a pretty significant role in many of these applications, especially getting into digital applications for industry-specific solutions, for e-learning or uh, security and surveillance, e-commerce. So our focus, in addition to continuing to strengthen, let's call them the core table stakes capabilities around communications capabilities, like kind of high scale video conferencing and collaboration, speech processing. One of the things that we've done in the speech processing domain is enable customers to be able to take this technology and deploy it in their own managed cloud or data center. In fact, that's one of the mantras in terms of our product in the market in general is you can consume it in other ways besides a public cloud where Radisys is providing a pipe to AWS. A lot of customers have, for regulatory reasons, for privacy reasons, for cost reasons, they manage their own public cloud implementations, private cloud, or even their own data center. So continuing to emphasize when we implement a new capability, that ability for customers to be able to deploy it in many different ways. And actually, you touched on this earlier about edge deployments. Service providers have a lot of real estate that are close to their customers, and they can exploit that. So this has benefit for applications that, for many different reasons, might need to be closer to the user, not the least of which is performance and low latency. So number one, continuing to make sure that the technology and capabilities that we offer can be deployed in many different ways. Number two, continuing to make it easy for users to customize these applications and services. In this video analytics domain, there are many, many technology players. What is a challenge is making it easy to leverage these analytics capabilities to consume new models, deploy it, roll it out. For us, it's as simple as a customer wants to do something. Let's say they want to identify an object, or a person is in an area they shouldn't be. Well, number one, they can look at a pick list. Here's a model. We have this person in a room. We drag and drop that and apply it to hundreds of cameras in a network just with that one action. Now, how do we make it easy for them to tweak that and adapt that? I'm looking for not only a person in this room, but are they an adult or a child? That kind of thing. Or even create new models specific to their business. So a continued emphasis on that accessibility, simplification, low cost of deployment. And I think I would say those are, kind of the main things. And a lot of what we do on the services side is help our customers take these technologies and integrate it into their networks, so that they can, make it a lot easier to deploy these services quickly. And I'd say finally, the domain that we're really emphasizing now is the dimension of programmable networks. There's a lot of new standards initiatives in this space, but and service providers, I think, are now looking at how they can, like I said earlier, how they can exploit their investments in 5G networks. Well, one of the ways is exposing the capabilities of those networks. So it's not just the functionality that we talked about, nor the insights that can be gained from what's the content that's traversing those networks, but also what are the capabilities of those networks? Is it easy to provision these services? Is it easy to create invoke a specific service level at a specific time for a specific application? I think that's a key domain that we're really focused on now, based on where our customers are going and where the industry is going. So if I kind of round it out, I would say, strong traditional CPaaS capabilities, very unique and differentiated capabilities in the media analytics domain, and now tying it together, sort of the third leg of the stool with programmable networks capabilities to enable customers to exploit the underlying connectivity that the service providers are offering them.
Well, it's super exciting. Just when you think you had your hands around this space and the requirements and the outlook, you get curveballs like 6G is coming, spatial audio, eye tracking, AI, Apple Provision, extended reality. So there's going to be plenty of needs for CPaaS and Radisys in the very long future. Well, thanks so much, Al. Looks like you're going to be traveling quite a bit. You going to get to any Sox games this year? Or are you going to be on the road pretty much the entire season?
Getting into the fourth quarter here and the sprint to the end of the year, mostly mostly on the road. But the Red Sox, very disappointing this year. I am looking forward to the Celtics this year. That's my so I'm going to get to see.
Yes, well, I'll have to join a game with you. I can't wait to see the new lineup. And thanks so much for sharing your insight. You'll see everyone in Amsterdam in just under a couple of weeks. And thanks for viewing. Thanks for watching. Reach out to Radisys or Al with any questions or comments. Thanks so much, everyone.
Yeah, thanks so much,
Thanks.
Evan.